Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas. Yeah. You got it? Huh? Okay. Well, welcome everybody to the December 20th, 2024 Board of Equalization meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Nancy, please call the roll.
Ms. Arthur? Here. Mr. Walters? Mr. Russ?
Here.
Mr. Drummond? Ms. Bird? Here. Lieutenant Governor Pinnell?
Here.
Governor Stitt?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you so much. I'll now ask Nikki from our counsel from the Office of the Attorney General whether we followed all the requirements of the Open Meetings Act.
The notice was timely filed with the Secretary of State's office, and then I'll ask Ms. Grantham to speak to filing of the or posting of the agenda.
The agenda was posted.
The agenda was posted. Thank you so much. Okay, members, in your packet is a copy of the minutes from the December 2nd, 2024 meeting. Are there any questions or comments concerning the minutes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Nancy, please call the roll.
Ms. Arthur?
Aye.
Mr. Russ?
Aye.
Ms. Bird?
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Pinnell?
Aye.
Governor Stitt?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nay.
All right, the motion carries. Mr. Gilbert, you're recognized for agenda item number 5.
Thank you, Governor. Members, if you could turn to page 1, schedule 1 of your packet. Yeah, in this agenda item, you'll be certifying the revenue totals that accrued to state and federal funds for FY24. And you'll see that first column of numbers, that those are the estimates that were made for FY24. And then the column over are the actuals that accrued through 24. The general revenue fund we have itemized, and you'll see that total midway through your page where it'll say total general revenue. We certified an estimate of $8.2 billion and collected $8.4 billion, which led to a surplus of $177 million. And footnoted on footnote 3, you'll see that $40.4 million of that surplus went to the rainy day fund, where it reached its constitutional cap, which was 15% of the prior year revenue collections. So in this case, that 15% was 15% of $9.1 billion of FY23 collections. FY23 was a record high collections amount. For 24, $8.4 billion was collected. So going forward, we won't produce any additional capacity into the rainy day fund. So there will be no deposit to the rainy day fund this year.
Because it's already maxed out?
Because it's already maxed out, and then revenue collections are anticipated to be lower than 23. And then as you work down, so that's general revenue fund, we have our other state certified funds. And the grand total for state funds collected was $8.7 billion. And then below that, we have our federal funds, our ARPA funds that we spent, and that was $258.4 million. So I guess I can just answer any questions that you may have on the sheet, but otherwise, I'll invite you to take action on agenda item 5.
Questions from the audience or just us?
We do have a tax commission that is present here.
Okay.
Members, any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the numbers?
Okay.
I move to certify the fiscal year 2024 general revenue fund collections of $8,466,258,501 and fiscal year 2024 total collections to all certified funds of $8,755,307,368 and total certified federal funds of $258,413,659.
Thank you. Thank you for the second, Lieutenant Governor. Nancy, please call the roll.
Ms. Arthur?
Aye.
Mr. Russ?
Aye.
Ms. Byrd?
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Pennell?
Aye.
Governor Stitt?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, the motion carries. And John, you're recognized to present agenda item number 6.
Agenda item 6 is informational only. There's no vote required here. OMS is required to analyze and submit to the state DOE the amount of monies remaining in the general revenue cash flow reserve fund that are necessary for current year cash needs and are available for legislative appropriation. And based on December FY25 projections, there will be no available funds for appropriation. And that concludes agenda item 5.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? Okay, John, you're recognized for agenda item number 7.
All right. In compliance with Section 34.87 of Title 62 of the Oklahoma statutes, the State Regents for Higher Education adopts a funding estimate each year for the needs of the Oklahoma Promise Scholarship Program, with a portion coming from the General Revenue Fund and a portion coming from the program's trust fund. The State Regents for Higher Education has adopted an estimate of $73.1 million for their FY26 revenue needs for the Oklahoma Promise Scholarship Program, and further recommends $70 million be allocated from the General Revenue Fund for FY26. I'll just note that, let's see, in 2025, $21.8 million was allocated from general revenue, and in 2024, $67.7 million was allocated from general revenue. What's different from this year from prior years on how this is reported, it's still being taken from general revenue, but now it will be an authorized fund that will be included in the general appropriations bills. So the legislature will now authorize expenditure of that OLAP fund. If there's no additional questions, I don't know if Regents is here today. Do we have any representation in case there's questions? Okay, well, I'll try to answer any questions you might have, but otherwise, refer back to you.
Any questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion?
I move to accept the FY26 estimate of $70 million as funds needed from general revenue for the Oklahoma Higher Learning Access Act, according to Title 62, Section 347087, as submitted by the State Regents for Higher Education.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Auditor. Any other questions, discussion? Nancy, please call the roll.
Ms. Arthur?
Aye.
Mr. Russ?
Aye.
Ms. Byrd?
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Pennell?
Aye.
Governor Stitt?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, the motion carries. John, you're recognized for number 8.
Thank you, Governor. Members, if you turn your page to page 3, Schedule 3. This is the first certification for the FY26 revenue, and you'll be establishing the appropriations authority for the upcoming legislative session. The next certification will be on Valentine's Day, and that will be the final revenue certification before session. I have some notes from the Tax Commission. We kind of included these during our briefings earlier in the week, but I'll just reiterate them here at the meeting. Income tax, we have strong job gains concentrated in the metro areas and resilient labor market, despite limited boosts in the oil and gas sector. State income growth remains solid, plus there's continued population growth fueling economic expansion. We do have an increased cost with the parental choice tax credits, which have a net $75 million to 26 over 25. With sales tax, consumer spending shows signs of moderation, reflecting shifts toward non-taxable services. Inflation rates are stabilizing. And then the exemption on sales tax for grocery items has the full fiscal year impact in 26. So that's 12 months versus the 9-month impact in 25. So we'll see sales tax affect a little more in 26. Gross production taxes, FY26 oil prices are expected to average around $67.98 a barrel, which is down from what we're anticipating for the rest of the full average for 25, which was $73.05. And natural gas prices are expected to average $3.16 per MCF versus $2.39 that's projected out for 25, with relatively flat growth in production. So although oil prices are expected to further decline due to surplus and weaker global demand, natural gas prices are expected to rebound due to the anticipated growth in the global LNG demand from Europe and Asia. So they're increasing their import capacity. We expect that we'll be able to fill that. Also of note are the revenues generated from interest from invested cash that the treasurer invests, and that has been benefiting from high bond yields. And before we move to the motion, I'd like to give you a little more context as far as an overall budget picture. So if you turn your page to page 4 in the appendix here, this is the FY26 budget outlook. And there you'll see the first column of numbers. This is the 25 expenditure authority. Next column over is what was appropriated, the actual budget for 25. And then next is the proposed FY26 expenditure authority that would be enacted if you certify this agenda item. So if we go work down a third down the packet in the proposed 26 column, that $8,225,905,839 number, that's the number that you'll be certifying. And you can see between 26 and 25, we have an overall decrease in the authority, but that's largely driven by the sales tax grocery cut being a 12-month impact versus a 9-month. So that sales tax cut will be an additional $110 million impact because it's 12 months. You have that additional 3 months. And then the parental choice tax credit goes for that full year, and it's capped at $250 million. So you have a net impact of $75 million. So much of the decline in authority from our recurring revenues is driven by just the feature of a full fiscal year impact of returning taxpayer money to taxpayers. And then if you just want to look at the cash and one-time items, you'll see that the position has declined from 25, and that's largely driven by big ticket items in 25 to go ahead and invest in the state with capital expenditures to the Legacy Capital Finance Revolving Funds, the Oklahoma Capital Assets Maintenance and Protection Fund, and the Rural Economic Transportation Reliability and Optimization Fund. So we had more capital expenditures there, but you'll see that we still have, like with general revenue surplus, we still have $1.365 million, or billion dollars, $1.365 billion. So I'm happy to answer any other questions on here or related to the certification before we come back to page 3.
So I've got a question.
Yes.
On the total recurring revenues, last year was 10.8 billion.
Yes.
And this year you're showing 10.745.
Yes.
And that difference is about 80 million.
Yes. So
Why
let
do
me
you have 152 million there.
Okay. Let me address that. So on the total recurring revenues line, the $152 million, that is the summation of all the itemized differences. So it's the 106.9 from the certified funds line and the 45 million from the total authorized funds line, which totals the 152. As you'll see, it does not, that summation does not account for OLAP becoming an authorized fund. So you're correct. I think more accurately, you could add in the $70 million that's now coming in from the OLAP fund. This is not a certified number, but if the board prefers to have this line item, the difference from the proposed 26 column from the 25 column, the totals instead of itemization, we can go ahead and do that.
I was just curious. And so last year we've come in 177 million over your estimate. Is that correct?
For the general revenue fund.
General revenue.
So from total, all state funds,
What page is that on?
that's on page, let's see. Well, that's just the certified funds. So that doesn't account for all the authorized funds. But at least for the general revenue fund on page 1, we had $177 million surplus for 24.
How many years in a row have we had a surplus?
Off the top of my head,
Versus what you've estimated?
Since 21.
4 years in a row?
Yeah.
So you've been pretty conservative on your estimates when you come in here. We've beat them 4 years in a row.
Yes, when the tax commission creates their estimates, they try to be conservative. Yes.
Hence the fact that we've over collected 4 years in a row. Yeah.
Yes.
Which is good.
Yes.
We'd rather
yes.
be conservative with our revenue projections and our spending than come find ourselves halfway through the year running out of money.
Yes, and so there is a lot of, at least upside risk, upside potential, especially with oil and gas prices. I mean, we just don't, there's just so much volatility.
And then also, for the record, we could only spend 95% of our estimated revenue, which gives us another 5% cushion.
That's correct. So in this case, yeah, we collected the full 5% for 24 plus the surplus. For 25, it's looking like we're just down. We're going to probably be down slightly, but we'll still have some cushion that we'll collect. And
so your estimated total recurring revenue is down about 70 million. And that was after we cut the grocery tax a full year, that's after grocery tax. What else did we do this past year?
Well, I guess how they define the parental choice tax credit, they changed the way countered fiscal year.
And that's going to collect 250 million this year, or is it just 200?
It's capped at 250 million for 26, which is 75 million more than 25. So I think we're looking at 175 million for FY25.
Okay. Excellent.
So yeah, you remove those, and they do anticipate economic growth, and it is conservative.
You have comments, questions?
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So I noticed on your GPT revenues, the numbers that you were projecting on that. I think it's interesting for the public to know that, if you look back 25, 30 years ago, GPT was running somewhere in the 25, 30+% range for the budget. This last month, my report showed 11% of the total revenue for the state. That's been ranging between 8 and 11%. Are you running those estimates off of a percent in those dollars going forward? Are you just projecting that for 2026 off of a 1-year estimate?
Oh, the share?
On GPT?
On GPT, those as a share, I think it's looking like it's come down to more like 10, maybe 9 to 10%. I don't know exactly what the 26 blend is, but I can go ahead and follow up with tax commission to see what the percentage is. But we've noticed that it's been coming down as a trend.
That's fine. That's okay. I think it's interesting though. I think it was last month Oklahoma hit a record high in gross production, the highest production in history with half the rig count. There's an interesting conversation in that. But some of us just got back from New York dealing with the bond rating agencies, and they seem to really be hung up on the fact that we're an oil and gas state, and we've really been able to sell them on these true numbers. Yeah, the revenue from oil and gas is high for the state as it's ever been, but as far as the piece of pie that we have in Oklahoma, that piece of pie, that pie has grown to a larger to make that a lot smaller percent. So that creates a lot more stability, and we're very impressed and pleased to see that.
I'd mention that in the packet, we do show the revenue stabilization fund, which is used to capture those revenues above the 5-year average for volatile funds like oil and gas. And we have a pretty healthy balance in there. We don't expect to make any deposits this year to the revenue stabilization fund, but just for your information, on page 12, we do have those balances for the revenue stabilization fund.
So what is the total? It's kind of a complicated question, getting into the weeds on. What's the total cash we have to carry? Not just cash, but surplus revenue that we're looking at. Is it around 4.2 billion?
If you go to page 12, this is the projection, what we're expected as far as cash position through fiscal year 25. And so that first line, that's the rainy day fund. This is capped out. We don't expect to accrue anymore. That's the 1.3 billion. Revenue stabilization fund will have $663 million. We don't expect any additions. And then let's see, for our general revenue fund, that's will be available. That's $1.3 billion. And then the next two funds, those are restricted funds at agencies, the FMAP, and then the Education Reform Revolving Fund will have cash at the end of the year.
So in that number, it's important to know that we have $777 million that's gone into the LCF, Legacy Capital Fund. It's not shown in that 4.6 total. Am I correct on that?
That's correct. No, none of the capital funds are depicted in here. Are there any other questions?
Any other questions, comments? Okay, is there a motion to certify?
I'd like to make the motion. I move to certify that FY 2026 estimate summation of certified revenue of $8,662,532,462 and certified revenue available for appropriations of $8,225,905,839 and certified federal revenue available for appropriation of $170,279,897.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Any questions? Any discussion? Nancy, please call the roll.
Ms. Arthur?
Aye.
Mr. Russ?
Aye.
Ms. Byrd?
Aye.
Lieutenant Governor Purnell?
Aye.
Governor Stitt?
Aye.
5 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, the motion carries. Is there any new business to bring before the board at this time? Seeing no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. Merry Christmas, everybody.
I believe Auditor Byrd was the second on the adjournment.
Good reminders for the